So here we go. We're just waiting for this to start up properly. So if you hear me talking, you're just watching it for the first time and it's after the fact. By all means, you can fast forward a little bit. We are just waiting for everything to go online here and make sure that everything is working the way we want to see it, and it appears as if it is. So here we go. We're going to have a little show, see what this looks like, and see if we're public here. Yes, we're public there. Let's go here. Let's bring that up. And let's look at what it looks like. Make sure everything's fine and we are happy, happy, joy, joy with the actual video we have on the screen. These things are all very important when you're starting a live stream, especially when you're not 100% like, oh yeah, I got this. I know what I'm doing here. Okay, so it appears like we have a solid live stream here. Okay, so there we go. It's on, it's working, so now we can actually start the show. What are we talking about today? We're talking about keeping it simple. We're talking about mixers. We're gonna go through, I'm gonna walk over there. I'm gonna go to the mixer, because see, it's right over here. And I'm going to go through at least 10. I have 13 written down, but I'm probably gonna keep 10 afterwards, maybe do some extra videos on it, clean it up a little bit. But today we're gonna spend the next, and I kid you not, probably about an hour going over some very basic stuff. And why basic? Because you know what, you go online today, you try and find anything that you wanna watch out there. There is just so much content. And it's like everybody's showing off everything they know. And it's like, you know what? I don't need to know I just want the basics. I want to understand some simple, easy, more important things I get asked questions for all the time. So I'm happy in this video, we're going to look at that. We're going to answer it. Later on, this is going to be used for later on, so you can watch it. It doesn't have to be live. And if you are, I want to say thank you very much. And remember, there's lots of information in the description, like links to everything we're talking about here today. And there's going to be, not today, but you'll find it at the end of the video. You're going to find the actual group where we break down all these videos into smaller segments for you, and they may be redone a little bit. They may not. We're going to see. But more importantly, it'll also give you a lot more direct information about each line that we're going to talk about. These 10 very important things you need to know when you get yourself a mixer, or if you want to get a mixer. So let's get started, because that's what it's really about, right? So, and if these seem too basic for you, trust me, at some point in time, everybody had to learn something. You can use the timeline at the bottom after the live show, because I'll edit it as soon as I can right afterwards. You'll be able to jump to all the parts. And if there's dead spots, I'll even say, no info. And then it'll be like, you know, the actual content, the questions that are here, the list, will all be there for you. So let's get started here. And yes, I'll be moving back and forth a bit. And occasionally, because this is a live show, I'm going to have to do some resetting. We're going to change out the mixers and do that kind of stuff. So right now what we're doing is we're coming back over to the mixer here. We're going to see what this is like. Ta-da! Mixer. Now, the very first thing we have is everybody wants to see an exciting mixer. They all want to see a mixer they feel like familiar with. So of course I put the Mackie Pro FX10 V3. This could have been any mixer, of course. Didn't have to be the Mackie Pro FX V3, but we're talking about the very first thing on the actual list of the things you need to know. How to turn on a mixer. Yes, I said how to turn on a mixer. Now, it's very important when you're turning on all your equipment. So behind the mixer, I have speakers, subwoofers, I have other equipment. You might have other equipment as well. At what point do you turn on the mixer? When you're turning all your stuff on. Now, if this is plugged into a computer, you're going to want to have this on before your computer, because it's a USB connection. We want to make sure this is on as a peripheral, and then the computer will figure out what's going on. Now also, when we're connecting this to our speakers and everything like that, we want to get that all connected and put it in place. Very important though, you always want to turn things on in the direction it comes out of. So I don't want to turn my speaker on first and then the mixer, because there'll be a surge that comes out of a mixer, and that'll cause a popping sound in the speakers. We want to avoid that. So we want to turn the mixer on first. So the mixer comes on before the laptop, before our speakers, before anything else. We're going to turn this guy on first. But of course, we're going to need to connect it to something. So in this particular case, we're going to use the 1/4 inch out. We're just going to a portable rechargeable PA speaker from Harbinger. And those are really fun stuff. It's really simple to use. Now I can turn this guy on. And now I can go over and turn the speaker on. Now, that is the most important part when it comes to turning things on. Make sure you got a good, solid, secure connection. Nothing's going to fall apart. Turn the mixer on. Now I can go and turn the next piece on. That could be the sub, that could be whatever it is. But that's the most important thing, is getting that going first, and then you're going to be fine. So that is the first most important thing you need to know about a mixer, is how to turn it on. Now we are going to change mixers as we go along. So on to number 2. How to turn up the volume on your mixer. Now I have these written down because 2 things. At some point in time, I needed to know this information. 2, lots of people ask me all kinds of questions when it comes to it. Regardless if it was when I had my actual showroom and people would come in and want a little, how-to on it, which is how this whole channel started, which is why we're back at the basics. Or these are questions I get asked in the comments. So how do I actually turn up the volume? Now this is important. There's a main volume here, and it has a U at the bottom of it. And that means unity. That means we're not adding or taking away anything. So if I turn this all the way up to that point there where it says U or 0 on a lot of mixers, that means I'm not taking away or putting extra into the actual mix. Now it's also important that you try and cascade your way down. We're going to go through all of them, but basically how to turn up the volume, you do it through caution. A little bit of volume on the speakers, a little bit of volume on your subwoofer if you have it. Then you're going to basically bring up your unity. You're going to bring up your main after you've brought everything else up. So how does volume work? Starts at the very beginning up here, and it works its way down and then across, then to your speakers. Speakers always start off low because you don't want to have any hesitation. Also, you want to turn your volume up against what you have on your dynamic meters. That's how you turn up volume. Start here, work your way down and across the mixer, and you'll be all set. Always keep the volume down a little bit on the speakers, and that will make your life a lot happier, a lot easier. You won't have any surprises, and that's the important part. Surprises we want to avoid. Number 3 on the list, how to set the gain on your mixer. Also, people that are like talking with the big words, gain structure in live sound. So a lot of people would say gain structure in live sound. Like, how would you search that if you didn't know what gain structure in live sound? You see dials on your actual mixer. You want to be able to understand what this is going to do. Now, this can turn up, make this mixer louder. That can make the mixer louder. Gain can make the mixer louder up here. These are all things that will bring up the volume in the mixer. Again, this comes back to my last point that I made, which is volume starts here and works its way across here and then out to the speakers. So gain is for your microphone. You have a microphone and you basically need to adjust how loud or how sensitive this microphone is going to be. And microphones have other things. That's another video where cardio and all that kind of stuff. But the important thing is, how far can I get away from the microphone? And how loud do I have to sing into the microphone? That's what gain is going to give you. Okay, in a nice simple term, gain is going to increase the sensitivity of your microphone, so it's going to make it more sensitive, so I can be further away or I can be softer on my voice. Or more importantly, gain is going to allow me to bring up the volume in the microphone so then I can make decisions about my level and my main output. So gain is going to vary depending on how loud or how low you have it. Also, there are sometimes dials here, numbers, let's say -20 in this case to +40. And what that means is how responsive. If this had 2 sets, which it does, it has an inside set that says U for unity, and then it says +60. Now, because the number starts off as -20, I know the microphones are much more sensitive. They need a lot more energy in them. That -20, the lower number, is going to represent the gain control for the mic, going up to +40. The unity, the 0, the +60, that is in reference, you know what, they say that's in reference to the microphone. I don't know how they do that. But you've got the actual outside line, which unity is set up at the top, and you've got the mic line, which is set up on the inside. Now, I'll be honest, I always assume that this minus 20, because this mixer seems to be a little different, this minus 20 would refer to my line input, but they're saying the unity, the mic gain is the unity to plus 60. I really got to try that out. Now, how are we going to do that? Pretty simple stuff. Again, we're going to plug our microphone into it. Now, the irony is I'm reading this and it's like I'm reading it for the first time. I actually use a mixer. This is the mixer that's in the corner that runs my studio for the last 2 years since the mixer has come out. So that's what's going on there. So again, how am I going to do this? I'm going to plug the mic in here. I'm going to make sure everything is turned down, which it is. So I feel comfortable. You can turn your mixer off if you prefer. And then I'm going to unsaddle the cable here, set the cable free. And we're going to need to turn up the actual speaker now, because we're going to use the microphone for a second. And there we go. We'll come up and around. And we'll turn up the speaker just a wee bit here, so we have some volume so that you can hear in the background. And we're going to go for it. Now I'm going to check one thing across. So yeah, that unity kind of flows across all three of them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up to unity. I do know that I'm going to need at least unity. Now I'm going to, even though I'm using a dynamic microphone, full disclosure, this is a P30. Now this particular microphone from Sterling has a built-in amplifier in it. We'll talk about that later, but it has a built-in amplifier. So it's one of these rare microphones that are dynamic, but still at the same time need phantom power. And the phantom power is to run that amplifier that's built right inside of that. That's what's going on. We're going to talk about phantom power a little later on, but I just wanted to bring this up here and show you that. So again, my gain is up here. I'm set at unity, and it's a lot easier with this microphone because of that amplifier. And I'm seeing a level light show up there. Then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to bring that up to unity. I'm just doing a sound check here just to see what's going on. And here we are, unity all the way around. So in this case, for this microphone, that's what I need to do. Gain is going to make this microphone, the mic I'm talking to you on, more sensitive. So if I turn up the gain and turn it to bring that down the microphone, I can do that. I can bring the mic up close. I can bring the mic far away if I turn up the gain. But you'll notice at some point, the magic of feedback will come in. The higher I turn this up, the bigger the bubble is around the microphone, the more likely it's going to hear that speaker. And once that happens, you've got feedback. So that's gain. Now, gain again, that is our very first adjustment. That is what we're going for when we actually bring up the microphone. That's the most important part. Start here, go to unity, make some fine adjustments here. We don't want to go over 0 here if we can avoid it. And with this microphone, again, because of its setup, its structure, I don't even have to go past unity on the top when it comes to these settings. Now, again, they're trying to tell me that unity, that's my line unity. My mic unity was all the way down here. Now, I don't see how that is even possible, but that's the overall structure. And there you go. That's what's going on right there. That's how easy that is to use. So again, we'll turn that down there. Turn down our mic. Unplug our mic for now, and we're going to go on to the next one. So gain is very important. Gain is where you start. And of course, nothing is just, ooh, I turn this one dial and the mixer works. That's not how it works. So in this case, just to even talk about gain, I did have to bring up my level to unity, and I had to bring up my volume. Now remember, unity on some machines are here, sometimes it's there. In this case, there is a resting point on this particular mixer. We are going to change mixers so you have an idea of what's going on in different setups, but in this case, that's where that one was. Now our next most important thing, no particular order, how to set up the EQ. Actually, we're going to skip that one, my apologies, because we want to use a different mixer for that. And yeah, so what we are going to do is we are resetting the mixer. So the next question is how to set up your EQ. There are two types of EQ options. There's EQ here, and there could be an EQ on the actual mixer. So what we're going to do now is we are going to turn some things off. Now, important as well, turning off and turning on, you want to follow that opposite direction, right? It's like, ooh, I did this, Now I got to do that. So how we're going to do that? We're going to go over, we're going to get rid of the volume on the speaker. Because this particular speaker, I'm lucky. Volume off is good enough to kill it. Get rid of all that volume off of that. Then we're going to turn that off of there. We'll be all set. Now we can actually get ourselves going on the next step. Now, if you're asking questions, let me see here. I do see some questions, so you bear with me a second. I'm glad you have a mixer. Yes, Mackie, my question. I have DBX. Yes, dry rack. Could you give a demo on how to connect it? Give me a second on that. I'm going to highlight this. I'm pretty sure which one that is, but I'm going to search this actual drive rack here and see what I can bring up so I know what I'm looking at, and I will answer that question if I can. I'm not unfamiliar by this. There we go. Pictures, pictures, pictures. So let me spin this off so everybody sees what I'm seeing right now. And yeah, so this is what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at what a drive rack is, and again, I'm going to need to see some images here just so I can see the back of it. All right, cool. Hello, the image was there, right? Of course. You know, you want to see a basic picture. Sometimes you just can't see a basic picture. And well, then I guess we're going to have to go to the page of the product. Let's go here. Let's open up a, see if it's there for us. Et voila. Bring that up. Hit enter. There you go. There you go. I've seen this. It was a while ago when I saw it, so I just got to bring myself up to speed. It's input, output, and PA speaker management system. Oh, okay, okay. I get you now. I get you now. So it's going to give you some features. Okay. Wow, wouldn't that be nice if they actually like gave a half decent picture for the thing? Your in, your out, your line. Okay. I was actually looking at something similar to this. I was actually looking at something similar to this just this morning. So it's a good thing you mentioned it, because I'm going, oh, you know, should I talk about that? That is, yes, that's like a 3-band EQ for your speakers, with a lot more bells and whistles on it, by the way. So it's a pretty awesome piece of hardware. So I like it. Yeah, I can talk about that. That's for sure. No problem. We'll get through a couple more questions, and I am going to, in a couple of minutes, talk about how to connect the mixer up to the subwoofer. But just before I do that, let's see what we got here, and we'll go from there. Again, I'm a one-man show, so we're definitely going to talk about that. And I'm just going through some of the others I see here. So now I have a question about, am I going to show how to actually connect the actual mixer to computer? I was saving that. This is more for live. Be honest, right now, that's what's going on here. So let me put this back to where it was, because that's not the one we want to see here, because that's just throwing a crazy picture on the screen. Let's transfer that back there. There we go. Don't know what happened there, but it was picture, 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 like crazy. All right. So, yes, I don't have anything here that we can use to actually show how to connect a crossover system for, you know, it's basically a system to take this and break it up between a subwoofer, maybe a taller speaker, a setup speaker, plus additional speakers if you go that far. But most of the time, a lot of people have it, it's 3-way, and they're using it mostly for subs and top mains. If you have extra amplifiers and you're breaking up your horns from your main drivers and your subs, you can use it as 3-way. Most people are looking at 2-way. So we are going to talk about that when we get there, and it won't be long. We'll get there pretty soon. And again, my apologies. I didn't actually pull out a computer to show how to hook it up, because that's a whole different thing when it comes to doing this. It's not complicated. You do want to plug it in, and you want to choose software that you feel comfortable with. For me, OBS, if I'm doing anything live and on the computer, everything I record. So if you watch a video of mine and you hear audio in the background and it sounds half decent, it's because I used Audacity. Then I ran a noise filter on top of it. Well, actually, before I got noise filter was the last thing. Sorry. First, I actually record the audio. Then I'll actually sample the end to hear what the noise sounds like. Apply that to the whole thing. Then I will adjust any peaks that are out. I'll, reduce the amplification of any really bad sounding stuff, like noise, clicks, ticks, all kinds of stuff. There's so many noises happening at the time. Then I'll turn around. Once I get that down, I'll run an actual compressor across the whole thing. This brings everything up and even, and then that'll be the audio that I use in place of everything that comes off the cameras, the GoPros, all that gets replaced by that one audio track. So that's what I mean. That's a video all on its own. So I am happy to do that. I was planning on doing that, but unfortunately not today. But this gives you an idea of what's going on, right? So where are we with this one? So now, yes, we are swapping out this mixer for the next. Now, to hook up a mixer, to hook up an actual controller afterwards, in this sense, we're going to talk about that three-way actual system. We'll do that while I actually pull this off the table. Though I've turned these things off, we're all set. We're going to take some of these things off. Remember, I did turn the speaker off, or in that case, the speaker here just needs the sound off. We're going to take this mixer off for now. Don't worry, it may come back. We'll see. And we're bringing up a different mixer because I need to have that EQ that this mixer has on it. So this mixer is coming up on a table for the EQ, and here it comes. There you go. There's a bigger mixer. Now, this particular mixer here, I'm going to pull back here a little bit here. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Here we go. So now this mixer here is from PhenyxPRO, and it's a very popular mixer. So again, we're talking about the basics, and the most important thing is when we get to this question, it is EQing. How do I adjust EQ? Now, mixers can have two batches of EQs. Individual channel of EQs, these guys here, and then we can have our output EQ here. This is for the room, this is for our speakers. So down here, you're going to set this up according to what you want to hear, the complete mix going out into the room. You may be compensating for speakers, you may be compensating for room. Let's say if you look at a gymnasium, which is like just concrete walls, no material, no nothing, you need to adjust for that so this way the sound carries and you minimize feedback. You can do that here. Over here, you're going to be compensating for each individual person or instrument you plug in. So again, somebody who has a very sharp, tinny voice, you may decide to add a little bottom end to their voice. You may even want to take away a little bit of mids if they seem to be a little, just flat in their voice. And you say, well, I'm going to take a little bit of the mids away and I'm going to add a little bit more on the highs. You're going to play with that because this is like adding salt, pepper. This is flavor. This is you're making the sound the way you think it's right and the way the person you're doing it for is going to be happy with it. These, again, you're compensating and adjusting each person individually or each instrument individually. Sometimes you have something you need more bass to it because it's just not, the bottom end's not dominant, it's not showing up the way it is. Or maybe you're compensating for how far away somebody is on their microphone or how much they're on top of their mic. You may be doing those adjustments. And then over here, you're going to adjust that room. Now, very important, earlier we were talking about how to set up your volume. And I said it starts up here and it works its way down, across, and up. Guess what? It's exactly the same on this mixer. Even though it has sliders at the bottom, it's going to come down here, across the bottom, and it's going to work its way out the mains. Now, that also applies to the EQ. So it's not just the gain, and it's not just, here we have our pad button, which I wanted to talk about before, but we didn't have one, but now here it is. And it does include the EQs. Now this is important because, see, the EQ has a plus and minus option. So in this case it says minus 15, on this side it says plus 15. If I leave it in the middle, there's going to be no difference. So if I had this at 0 and this at 0, if everything was actually working properly, this at 0 would be nothing. But as soon as I would come here and start adding, putting things at plus 3, if everything went clockwise, I added, what's going to happen is I'm going to add to, the gain is at, let's say, 50. Then I added another 6, so now it's at 56. So now we're going to be a little hot at this end here. So usually once you make some adjustments here, you're either going to have to pull back on your actual slider, or you can make a small correction on your gain on top to offset it. But remember, this microphone, this is starting to add to our slider at the bottom. Now remember, our slider doesn't have to be anywhere particular. Only when we start setting things up, that's when we're going to have a slider set up somewhere. But for now, we're talking about the EQs. You're going to have these guys here adjust. So if I wanted to have a little bit more highs, maybe I went to +9 for the highs and +9 for the actual lows. If I think, well, I need to take away, I want more highs, more lows, I'm not going to dial this up anymore because I'm already at, 9 out of 15. What I would do is -6, let's say, on the mids. And again, I'm just using that as a reference point. But now the difference between the high and the low, the difference between the high and the medium is +9, -6. So now we're at a difference of 15. So that's a big difference. And that's the same as if I would have gone all the way. I never want to turn everything up 100%. That's when things start to sound bad. You want to get away from that when you can. So never try and have anything at 100% because then there's no room for the sound to go. You're hit the limit. That's EQ. Again, these EQs, it's cream and sugar in your coffee. It's that sort of thing. That's to make each individual person sound the way you want them to sound or the way they want to sound. And that's going to affect just those channels. Over here, this is where you're going to see difference. This is where you're actually going to see the room get adjusted. Now, the same rules apply, by the way, when it comes to the actual overall volume. You're going to see the dynamic meters change dramatically when you bring these up. If you bring this up, if this was all started at 0, just like that, if this was all at 0, you would basically at this point, I know I'm getting a hard time getting 0 out of this thing. I don't know. There we go. This here, our dynamic meters, which is what we're really keeping track of, says 0. As soon as I start playing with this, as soon as I put this up and +6, guess what? I'm going to be +6 over here. So again, I need to manage that. I need to adjust that. I don't want to bring everything up. I don't want to bring everything down. If I wanted to bring up my mids and my highs, and I just want to pull back a little bit, anything I do here is going to compensate there. So I always try and keep it as close to 0 as possible and then play around with that. So if some go up, some go up, some go down, some go down, but they all go up and down based on 0. I'm not going to have 3 of them up and then go, oh, that one's got to go all the way to the top because I'm already here. I'll just bring these down a little bit. So again, always think of the difference. I can be +12 on one slider, or I can simply be -6 on everything else and then just +6 on there. That's going to get me the same result, and that's going to be safer, and it's going to sound better. That's my EQ. So next on the list of great things to talk about here, I'm sure I had 2 things for this mixer. I really like this mixer, by the way. It does an awful lot of things for you at a great price. So that reminds me of 2 things. One, all the links for these products are down below. Some of them are for Guitar Center. Some of them are for Amazon. So in this case, this is for Amazon. And yeah, they're affiliate links. That's what helps support this channel. So if you're interested in any of the products we're looking at today, or you're just interested in buying stuff off Amazon or Guitar Center, by all means, use my link first. That kind of helps along, right? Now, on to the next one. We did reverse that for this. And so that means pan and balance. Now, that's our next thing. A lot of mixers have dials at the bottom, which allow me to go to the left and to the right. Some of them are called pan, some of them are called balance. Now we're going to change our mixer one more time, because that's what we want to do here, is we want to see what that mixer is going to look like. Let's see if we can make that happen. We're going to unplug this one, put that one over here, and we're going to, without breaking anything, go find a Harbinger mixer, because we've got a Harbinger LX12. Now, I do have to ask Google to do one thing for me. Google, turn off studio speakers. Hey Google, turn off studio speakers. Job done. There we go. Why? Because it turns out that the actual Harbinger mixer that I use is also the one I use on the back end of my studio here, and it's the one that's plugged in all the time. So if you're looking for the other mixer I use, the one I play music on, it's going to be this mixer right here. There we go. So that is the Harbinger. So here we are. We have made our way to this mixer here because, like I was saying before, I had to go get it. This mixer is very nice because it has some pan options on it. And it shows you balances. Now, to me, this is legitimately the proper term for both these features. Now, some mixers only use the word pan, some mixers only use the word balance, but the difference between a pan and a balance is pretty straightforward. A pan is always going to be seen on a single channel. So see, this is only a one microphone or one line input channel, goes all the way down here, represents only one. Now, a balance is always going to be seen on a system that has the ability to have two channels, a left and a right channel in this case here. So we're seeing that appear right here. This can also be called channel 5 and 6 for this particular mixer, which is why you'll see the numbers. 1, that says pan. 2 says pan. 4 says pan. 5 and 6, notice 5 and 6 show a balance. 7 and 8 show a balance. Same thing happens with 9 and 10. So that's very important. This means that I can actually move my sound from what's coming in on the left side, turn down the right side and move more to the left, and do the same thing, you know, right to left. A pan is going to take this single sound and it's either going to move it to the left or it's going to move it to the right. And that's very important because we're taking the same sound. Once we hit the top, there's no volume change. This is exactly as loud as that channel is going to get, equally on both the left and right side. When I start moving it to the right, follow me now, I'm moving it to the right. What I'm really doing is the right side is staying the same volume, no more. I'm starting, as I turn away, reduce the volume on the left side. So 100% left, 100% right. As I move it towards the right, I'm starting to count down on the left. If I'm halfway on the right side, I'm only 50% on the left side, 100% on the right. If I go all the way to the right side, 100% on the right side, 0% on the left side. That's how it moves. Again, we're not adding sound to the right or to the left by moving in that direction. We're taking away sound from the actual left or right when we move away from it. Now on the balance side, same principle works. We're moving to the left and right, except that we're now controlling two individual channels. So we're not taking the same sound and moving it to the left or moving it to the right. And we're not swapping the channels. We're not taking what's on the left and putting it on the right. We're not doing any of that. We're just basically, once we hit the top, we're at 100% for both channels. As we move to the right, we're taking away, we're pulling back on the left channel. When we move to the left, we're pulling back on the right channel. That's the difference between those two setups right there. Again, if I only plug into this mixer on the left channel, right, which is normally the, I think, odd numbers on this channel, on this mixer, then you're going to basically have it go like a pan option where it's going to move sound left and right. It's going to act as a single channel. That's what's happening there. And again, these combos, these dual channel setups that you've seen people think that they're getting shortchanged, this is going to be for your electric drums, your keyboards, that sort of equipment, your controllers. You're going to plug that in here. That's what happens when we talk about pan and balance. So yeah, they are different. And they are labeled differently on mixers. So don't be surprised that you see a mixer that only has the word pan on it. That's the Mackie does that. They just pan the sound around. Where traditionally I used to see this all the time. Not as much. Next question. Next important thing to know about mixers. I know these are all very basic, but you know what? These add up. And these are stuff that becomes second nature. The more you have a mixer, doesn't matter what brand or make or model, these are the little triggers that you have with you. And okay, what are we looking at here? How to set up the levels. Yeah, we did that. Okay, and we're up to effects. So just before we get to effects, we're going to swap out mixers one more time. Now, the one you just saw, that was the Harbinger mixer, the LX12, which is very, very nice. Got lots of great bells and whistles on it. We have a video on it too. So now we are back here. Now, a lot of people are like, how do I set my volume levels? How do I get my gain levels up the way I want them to, all at the same time in one swoosh? How do I get there? And again, this has to do with setting up your levels. I'm going to grab the power cord here. We're going to bring this on. And we are going to do one line. And we're going to use the actual music that's on here as our friend, because that's what we have set up here. We're going to turn up the main volume a bit, and we're going to plug some speakers in. So here we go. We've got back to our speakers. Mixer's on. We're going to go out control room. We don't want that one. Our main left and right out of there. Now this is a random mistake that I'll make just as much as anybody else a lot, and that is I'll plug into the control room, which are usually my monitors, instead of my main out when I'm using 1/4 inch. So, yep, then, okay. So remember, this live show will get edited after the fact, and everything will be set up in the timelines at the bottom. So you're lucky enough to see all the, things I would do on an actual recording, getting things set up and ready to go, and how I get there from point A all the way to the end. Now here, I want to actually set this mixer up, and we're going to use it for music. So in this case here, I'm just going to be using the 2-track MP3 player. So there's 2-track here, but more importantly, there's an MP3 player off the USB stick. It also has Bluetooth and all kinds of other stuff. But again, that's the product video. Today, we just care about the fact that it can easily play MP3. So if you're doing something that you need to have access to some music, in my case, royalty-free stuff, I would do that right here. Now, how am I going to set this guy up? Well, in this case, I don't have to do any gains, so we're going to bring a microphone in for that, but we want to bring up this guy here. And at the same time, our levels. So we're going to bring this guy up here. We're going to bring this guy up here. So what I like to do, if I'm just doing music, instruments, anything like that, I'm going to bring this up to unity. My speaker is going to be, at the end of the day, the driving volume out. So I am going to set the speaker up only at about 10, 15, 25%. And that's where I bring this guy up. So I got to go turn that speaker down because I was a little aggressive on the volume on that speaker. So again, speaker's got a lot more power in it than I thought. And I just want to see that against my talking volume. There we go. Okay, we can do that. That's at about, that speaker's only now at about 10, 15%. So here we are. What did I do? Well, one, I'm way too hot, right? I'm way over on +4. That's where it's peaking at. So I'm going to need to pull back on that a bit. And how do I do that? I'm going to adjust this guy down a bit. And that might be because this gain here is really high. So again, I'm going to bring that up. Now, the music on this particular setup has no adjustment. So anything I want to do for the speaker is going to have to come from DQ. So in this case, I'm just going to give it a traditional V pattern here. So again, I'm going to go +6. I'm going to bring down that just a little bit. So we'll give it a full 12 split, which means just up +3, +3, -3, +3, +6. Down here, it's -6. So again, we've got a difference of 12. It's a traditional V pattern, right? A little more sharper, a little more bass response. That's all ready to go. So again, I'm trying to drive this to 0. So I'm going to drop down my actual line volume now, bring up my mixer, because I always want to know that I'm getting the most volume that I'm looking for by bringing the actual sliders up to 0. Then I'll bring this guy up until we match up with that. And there you go. That's where we're at. And why are we still down here? Because the actual music is got a compressor built into it. It's been tweaked as can be for as much volume as possible out of the actual sound. And I've EQ'd it. So I've added +6 to the whole setup. So at best, we're going to see ourselves somewhere around here, -10 to -20, and we'll be all set up there. Now, I want to add a microphone to that. I'm going to take my mic, I'm going to plug that in here. I'm going to make sure the gains and everything are down, and I'm going to add a mic in. Now, in a regular world, this part here is only to actually make sure everything is working. I'm going to now slide this off. I don't want, if I had a mute button for it, I just press a mute button and mute that. I wouldn't want to hear that anymore. Now I can do this with headphones on and press the actual solo buttons, or I can do this live, which I'm going to do right here. So again, I'm just doing a line check here just to check, and then I'm going to back off a bit. So what am I doing? I turn my gain up 50%. I'm just going to bring my levels up a little bit here, bring that up a little bit just to see. And yeah, I'm getting response. So now I can take time and actually set this up. And I'm going to show you how quickly I can set this up. First though, I do need to turn up the volume on the speaker a little bit. So back to the speaker. There you go. That should be a little bit more appropriate for what we're doing right now, as I try and balance all my cables out of the way. Awesome. Okay, so now what I need to do is we're going to leave the volume there, because that's how this particular mixer works. Not all mixers are the same. This particular mixer, the channels are connected here. Sometimes this doesn't have to be done for that to respond. Also, you can do this on your headphones by pressing the solo button. What am I going to do? I'm going to bring this up first to unity right up here. And now I'm going to adjust the gain here. And what am I going for? I'm going to get my voice to line up, be at between -2 to +2. Because it's a voice, I'm actively talking, and depending on what I do, hey, how's it going, Robin here, is going to change how that responds. And that's what's going on right there. So again, if we look up here, we're going to see that I'm, 3/4 of the way, which on this particular mixer is somewhere around +50, that sort of thing on the gain. And down here, we're going to see that we're at unity. That's important. That means I'm all set up here. And again, I do have a little bass and treble. I can take that out if I want to, but it's going to change the output. Now, that all being said, I come over here again. I'm back to 0. I'm good with that. I have no EQ. If I went crazy with the EQ, if I added a lot of bottom end, see how that changed there? So now, if that's how crazy I want to leave it, I'm just being extreme. I bring this down just a little bit right here, and I'm looking to get myself balanced out there. Now that's my top volume. I may change that, because remember, I'm mixing different people. If I have one person who's singing louder and somebody else, that person who's louder is going to get turned down, and the person who's singing softer will get turned up. And now I can bring in the music. Microphones are always the hardest to set up first to get sensitivity, but then afterwards you dial in the music to match up the way you want. And there you go. That's what's going on right there. So now I have my voice, I have my music, and I can choose how much I want of each, and you're all set. That is ready to go right there. So that is how I would make a decision on how my volume. Again, starting here, working myself around, and that's it. That's how I get it done. And we're all set. So now, what are we going to do next here? We're going to hit the mute on this guy. Pause. We're going to take a look at my list, because remember, I made a list. Next on the list. Next, so we just did that. So now we're up to the effects. What mixer am I going to... Let's go back to the Mackie. And we're going to go do our effects on the Mackie. So I got to turn down the volume, unplug this guy, do all of that. And we're going to swap out again. And, oh, there we go. Check to see where we're at here. Okay. And here we go. So I've turned down the volume. Now I can, turn this guy off, unplug it, do all that again, because why we're going back to the Mackie. We're going to go back to the Mackie. I'm going to show you how this gets done. Grab the power cord for the Mackie. Oh, no, wrong mixer. That's not the Mackie. That's the Harbinger. This is the Mackie. There we go. Ta-da! All right. So again, we can turn this on now. We can plug everything into it, turn it on then, which is fine either way. And in this case, we're talking about effects, so we are going to need our microphone. I'm going to plug that in here. We are going to plug in our speakers while we're doing all that. Saved. Now we're going to turn it on. Put our mic down here, and we got to go take care of that. And here we are. So next one is the effects. How do we use the digital effects in a mixing board to get us going? Now there's two types of effects layouts in a mixing board. There's ones that say like a ridiculous number like 100 or 256, something like that. And they are scale driven. So what that means is that you're going to pick, let's say the first one here, let's say bright room. On a mixer that had 256 effects, you'll notice that each effect might jump by 16. So from 1 to 16 is bright room. And what that means, as you actually increase the number, it's going to increase the cycle of it. And what's the magic word that I like to use and that some of the companies use? It's right here. Parameters. That's the word I like. That's the word I'm looking for. Parameters. Increase the parameters. So not just the level of it. We're not talking about how loud it is. We're talking about whatever make that effect special. It's how small that effect's going to be applied to the actual sound, all the way up to 16, which is how big that effect will be applied to the sound. Now in Mackie's case, there's no parameters button. There's no repeater parameter, because repeat sometimes gets used for the word parameters. And that's not here. They just basically, some sound engineer through customer survey decided that these were the 24 effects that would best represent you, the user, which is okay because that makes it simple. It's just 24. But if you're not happy with these, it's not going to work for you. You're going to have to go find some other way to get your effects. So that's what's happening here. That's why I like parameters. A dial on it, which is parameters, because then you can have this, add a parameters button, and it makes these virtually unlimited. So you find which one you like, but if it's too much or not enough, you dial the parameter button. So here we go. Mackie Mixer effects. We are going to do some sound checking here and see what we got. We're going to bring our unity up there. We're going to bring our unity up there. We already did this before, so we know we just need to be at unity for this guy to do effects. Now, how are we going to do that? First, we're going to pick an effect that we want to have. Echo is 14, so we're going to dial this into 14. And we're going to say OK by pushing in. So different mixers have different ways of applying that particular effect. So that's how we apply it there. Now, we need to turn up the effects. Well, the effects are going to be individually laid out. So there's an effect here. We're going to bring that up to unity for now, and we still don't have it coming out of the speaker. Why? Because we have to come over here, and this is our main out. This is going to be how much of the effects are going to be added to the main. We're going to do that right here, and there we go. We've now added that to the actual main, and it's that simple. It's done. We've added it in. I can turn it down. I can back it up here a little bit if I want, or I can bring it in more predominantly, and that's how my voice and the actual effects are dialed in. And that is number 14. It's that simple. Just remember, again, we have to do it across the board. So just like the actual main, how did we get volume out? We started the controls from the top down and then across. Same thing applied to the effects. We brought the effects in here. Then we were able to control it down and across. So it's effects dial here and effects dial there with our main volume up. See, main volume down, nothing happening. Bring the main volume back up and we're back in play. That's how that works there. Now, different mixers are going to be slightly different, but all based on the same concept. Now remember, you can hit a button just like that and that mutes out the effects, that sort of thing. Remember, you can always cut a mic just by hitting, if you have a mute button on the line, just like that as well. But that's how that works. That's how that effects gets dialed in and out. And again, effects are based on what you're looking for. So again, just to try something different, 17. What 17 says, delay number 3. Listen to that. That's a lot of delay. So, and again, these are adjustable to how you like to have it. And again, that's how bringing it into play is going to get it to work for you. And that's why we're keeping it simple, because there's so many simple things that need to get known on a mixer. So this way you can enjoy it. And, you know, we don't need to use the big terminology, the big technical terms to get to that point. We first need to understand what we're playing around with, and that it's not scary stuff, and it just actually works. Next, what do we got next? Okay, here we are. Finally, we are up to plugging things in and hooking things up, which is why this mixer is here. We just kind of dumb lucked that. Now, first, I just want, you know, somebody asked me a question. If I can answer it, I'm going to do my best. Now, what I'm going to do here is I am going to try and plug in another mixer into here to show you how, if you were using a rack mount system to actually control, it's basically a crossover. We're going to fake it by using this mixer here as it slides down. So we're going to tilt this back a little bit, just to make sure everything stays. But I do need to get that powered up. And I did something with that power cord. So we're going to find it. And if we can't find it, we'll find a different one. And we'll plug it in anyways, because we're going to need that powered up. So, because I can't find the original power cord to it, I'm just going to find a power cord that will work on it, which I do have. So that's okay. We're all right there. And there we go. We have a power supply now, and we have an actual plug. So we just need something to plug it into. Now, the Pyle mixers are very, very popular for all kinds of reasons. One, they have a lot of choices. This one here, great on Amazon. It's just one of those really incredibly fun things to use. This happens to have 3 channels, so it does represent a little bit of what a crossover is going to do for you. So that's very important there. And yeah, so here, let's take a look. See, again, I got to plug this in here. So we're gonna do a little bit of a dance here to get ourselves over here. And we're going to plug in one more time. We're going to make this a little sketchy here because, nope, that's not going to work. And how much more complicated is this going to be? Ha ha ha. You know, for a place with a lot of power cords, you'd think I'd have a good spot to plug something into. Yep, might reach here. Awesome. Maybe, maybe, maybe. There we go. Okay. We're going to power this guy on, make sure it works. Yes, it does work. And we're all set there. Now, all that being said, I think I might even change out the Mackie just because I want to have that music option to play. Now, of course, any mixer will do this, so it's not, we're not being particular choosy about what we're using to get to this point, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to disconnect this guy. And I'm going to get myself untangled from the microphone that I have here. And there we go. Okay, that part's done. I'm swapping this out one more time because I want to have something that I can play music on. Just so you can hear it, because it's kind of sad if, you know, we're trying to do this and there's no music coming out of it. So we're going to keep that guy. And we're going to have to include another mixer into this whole mix. So we got to get this guy off of here. Boy, we're doing some rearranging now. push that guy back. We're going to take the Pyle mixer, we're going to put it back here. We're going to get that out of the way. It's got to be somewhere further than we are, because I've got to make this work. Okay. Here we go. We're going to put that here. Things are coming together. Things are coming together. We're going to put this off to the side. I know you're not going to see it right now. I'm going to show you what's going on there in a second. We need this. And we're going to put this guy back up here. And again, we're bringing this guy up here because it has a lot of features on it, and it just so happens to have a very important feature for us today, an MP3 player, because we're going to play our royalty-free music. You can plug that guy back in. And there you go. Before I turn anything on, we are now going to plug this mixer in to a speaker. And if we want to do just a mixer, all we need to do now is go straight from the mixer. We're going to back this up because we're doing some connections here. So we're going to do that. We're going to see how I can do this without anything's too jittery for you. And there we are. So what we have in front of us right now is a couple of things. We've got ourselves the mixer. Behind the mixer is a speaker, and there's a subwoofer down below and a secondary mixer off to the side. Now, why this mixer? This is the PMX462. The PMX462 is important because it has main output and a subwoofer output, like a two-way crossover. So if I ran my mains, this would, by the way, work for any type of rack-mounted crossover system. So if you have a rack-mounted crossover system, you certainly can do that here as well. Now there's going to be some features in rack mounts. I would have to have that particular one here to show you all the details. Usually there's EQs and that sort of stuff built in. But in this case here, if I want to connect to my main speakers, traditionally all I would do is get myself two XLR cables, just like that. One speaker, I would go both cables to that one speaker. Just like this, just like that. Nothing more complicated than doing it. And that'll get me connected. So I'm gonna take this output. Things aren't turned on yet, by the way. That's the important part here, right? I'm gonna go main out. If I'm doing anything longer than 25 feet, try and use XLR cables all the time. That's gonna be your best way to do it. That's because you're using a balanced connection. Plus, because the pins are always separated, there's nothing ever connecting, you're less likely to get a jump, a surge, or short, something bridging together. That'll happen with the 1/4-inch cables because of the 1/4-inch design. It's just, when you're putting it in, they tend to have a split second of a short because, they bridge the connection. They got to get there, right? There you go. That's all in. So now we just need some speaker wire, some power cable, which I have. I happen to have them right here. So here we are, power cable in hand. And again, this mixer could have been any mixer that's not, proprietary. I'm just getting this wire out of my way here. So again, now I just need to connect the speaker for power. Connect to my power bar in this case, which is right down here. And there you go. I'm going to turn that off because I haven't turned the mixer on yet. So I turn that speaker quickly off there before anything happens. These things you don't want to have on unless they need to be on. So here we are connected across. I'm only going to set this at about 10%. Very, very important. Keep this as low as possible. I'm going to set my speakers to line inputs because this is a line output. My speakers need to be on line inputs. That's what's going on right there. Don't need the third channel, so I'm going to keep that turned down. Now I'm going to turn my mixer on. All my volumes are down. I don't need my master volumes up at this point. It's that easy. Now, I'm going to dial in here something I want to play, just like that. And I'm going to turn up the volume a bit. And there you go. I got volume there. Mixer's happy. That's happy. Now I've turned the volume down again. Turned my speaker on. I know everything's working. I was looking at the meters. Speaker's online. There you go. Now I can turn up the volume again and I'm good to go. Notice I'm at unity here. Volume is very low here because I only have it on 10%. Everything else is ready to go. When you're ready and you want to do your show, bring your volume up to where you want to have it. And it's that simple. So regardless of what volume I put this at, again, I'm monitoring, making sure I don't hit the limit of that speaker. That speaker's got tons of power, so we're good there. That happens to be a Harbinger V4112. If you're looking for an extremely crazy, powerful speaker, mid-class when it comes to power ratings, that's going to be it. If you're DJing and you want to have something for your, your 50 to 150, that's it right there. The on-screen, it comes with an app that you can run on your tablets. Beautiful stuff, but that's there. You should look at that. Check it out. Now, again, once you set up the volume here to where you want to have it, to before 9 o'clock setting, you're good to go. It's as simple as that. Now, you're saying, okay, what's the next step? The next step is hooking up a subwoofer. So what we're going to do now is I have a subwoofer dropped in down below it. So I'm going to turn my volume down here. Now, again, I don't want to turn this mixer off because the speaker's still on. So I'm going to come over here and turn that speaker off instead. Now, if I only have one subwoofer, I'm going to have both my XLRs come out of my mixer and go down to my one subwoofer. Now I'm plugging to the input on both that. I'll move the unit out of the way when we're done so I can give you a closer look at what I just did. And then we need to have two XLRs, one to go to our left speaker, one to go to our right speaker. Or like I always say, if you're buying this for your rec room at home, that sort of thing, I'd be better off saying, hey, buy one subwoofer and one speaker. You would be much more excited. Or buy one line array like we have here. I've got two of them. But man, start with one. You'll buy yourself a second in no time. The subwoofer, that's again the Harbinger. It's the MLS 1000. Wow, that is absolutely amazing for anything. I mean, of course, you can use it for your home system. You can use it out and about. But that's just crazy stuff. Those speakers, you set up your home studio. Now this is for partying purposes. I wouldn't use this for like I'm recording music with, but that Harbinger line arrays, absolutely crazy. This guy here, so now I'm plugged in here. I do need one more XLR cable because, I hooked up two channels there, need another cable. So let's go digging through our cables, find another one. There we go. That shall do, that shall do. There we go. So again, two cables out of here. Down to the subwoofer. Now if I had a left and right speaker, I'd chase one off to the left, one off to the right. And there you go. And if you're trying to decide where should I put my subs, if you have two subs in a large space, put them basically side by side. If they're two 18s, then set them up around no more than 18 inches apart. And that just basically means that you're going to get the maximum throw out of them. So again, you can place one underneath each speaker, which is going to give you great sound and great effects on each side of the room. That always works out. But if you're trying to just control the dance floor better, push more sound in the center space where the dance floor is, bring them together, you really, really are going to see the difference there. Even if I had two of them, I bring them closer together. This way it works out. So now I've plugged everything in, so now I can turn things on. I got to bring another power cord over. And there we go. So remember, when this video, as I step and trip on things, as this video is all done, I'll be editing it down later, getting rid of all the, me tripping over a power bar as I walk over to plug something in. And I will be tagging all the information. So this way, everything we talked about will be across the entire board in a much quicker and easier way to watch. So you can certainly be entertained by this. So now turning it on, very important. So remember the mixer's on because I left it on. I didn't have to turn it off. And I want to turn things on going outwards. So what did I plug in next? The subwoofer. So now I'm going to turn on the sub. Again, I'm making sure the volume's down. I'm only going to bring it up about 25–30%, just because I want it a little bit louder than this so you can hear it playing there. And now I'm going to turn on the speaker, because now any surge that the mixer would have had, because the mixer's now on, is not going to happen on the sub. We're not going to hear that. And now that we've turned the subwoofer, any surge that the subwoofer would have applied to the main speaker, that's not going to happen because the main speaker is off. Now I can turn it on. Everything's good. We're all set. We're all settled. Everything came on, didn't scare anybody, no heart attacks, just worked out. So now we can go back. Now you can really tell that I've got a subwoofer, to the point that I need to turn down that subwoofer because you can't even hear the tops. Now that's an 18-inch Harbinger sub that I'm running at literally 5% right now. And yeah, just so you know which one I'm talking about the V2318S. V2318S at 10%. My tops, which are some of the more powerful ones, that's because I'm playing that in the studio. That's a lot of bass just right off the hop there. So there you go. That's what's going on there. Now, I have to go to the actual drivers to make those adjustments. So if I pull this back here and I say, well, Robin, how can I do this? And why? This is one of the reasons to get a rack mount crossover with the gain adjustments on it. You want to have some control. It's like buying an external EQ. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to back up a little bit for unplugging things. We're going to turn off the power on the main speaker. Remember, we're going to work our way down. Turn off the subwoofer. I don't need to go any further because now I'm coming to this mixer. How am I going to do that? My main outputs from here. Now this could be a crossover. That's not going to change. The what is not the important part. The how is going to happen. Now, if this was a crossover system or anything like that, or maybe this was my controller, my DJ controller, this could have been my DJ controller, and that's my mixer that I use because it has Bluetooth on it. It has 3-channel input. It has subwoofer separate control on it. Done for a reasonable price. Now, what do I need to do next? I plug that in there. I'm only running one speaker, so in this case, I'm only going to run one speaker off of it, and I'm going to run one subwoofer. I'm going to grab my XLR cables. This, remember, has 3 channels out, left and right, and subwoofer. So again, this is like an electronic crossover built right in. Why? We have 2 slider controls. One is for the main speakers, one is for the subwoofer. So I'm going to go plug in my main speaker. I'm only using one, so we're just going to plug into the left for now. And I'm going to plug that into my speaker over here. Then I'm going to grab my next XLR cable. I'm going to plug in my subwoofer. Now remember before, we had to adjust things separately. We were constantly going back and forth. Ooh, subwoofer was too loud. Subwoofer wasn't loud enough. So now I plug that in there. And we're going to put the sub back to 10%, not 5%. The top speakers are at 15–20%. Now we've got to turn things on. The mixer's still on, so we're safe there. Now we got to turn on the second mixer, because how we can plug this in here. So this goes on. The next thing in line is this mixer here. So we're going to power that guy on. Now that's on. We're going to make sure those volumes are down for now. What do we plug in after that? Well, these are separate, so they can come on as long as we have volume controls on. Everything's happy. And again, because we've turned everything on here, we're good over here. No popping, no surging, everything's on. Didn't scare anybody. Okay, so now what do we want to do? Well, we've just plugged something in here into channel 2 and 3, so we're going to need to give that a little bit of level control. We're not adding or minusing, so we're just going to do that. We're just going to set this up a little bit here just to say that it's all working. I play with this. Again, we're just leveling off the mixer. I feel comfortable with that. We're going to leave that down there for a second. Now we're going to turn the music back on over here. We're going to drive this up. We're going to bring up to unity. We're going to have no volume. Even though we come to unity, we'll still have no volume. So we'll take the pause off there. Bring this up a little bit. And there you go. So how are we going to get volume? Well, first of all, if I wanted to control my sub, I would slide the sub. And we're not getting it because I didn't do something right here. We got our power. Yes, we do. USB on channel 3. No, we need to slide that down again. Wait. My apologies. In the wrong channels. Let's turn that down again. 1 and 3. So let's plug that in just for now, just over to here. And I just turned it off. See that little popping sound? It's because I accidentally hit that power button there. And now we're going to turn this guy up Give ourselves a little bit of volume here. Okay. Oh, do do. And you know what I forgot to do? Plug the subwoofer in the subwoofer output. Aha! When things go wrong, look around, you'll find it. Subwoofer needs to be plugged in where it says subwoofer out. Now we're cooking with gas. So there you go. Both my channels are up properly. Everything's all set. Now I get my main speakers like we had before. And we'll select something that's gonna. Now I want to dial in my sub. I can bring back the highs, only have subs, so now that's just sub, because there's my crossover right there. There's my tops. Once you have that dialed in, I don't really have to go back to that anymore. Again, that could be a three-way crossover in the rack mount. That's what that can be. That can be a mixer like I have there. That's designed to control the subs separately from the top. Or maybe I was just very creative with my actual main outputs on the controls. But now I can come back to my mains here. If I need to make any adjustments, I can go over there. But once I dial that in that I'm happy, I got it here. And that's it. That's how easy that is. And again, you can use that mixer that way for all kinds of stuff. You can use that mixer on its own. It's got built-in audio interface for your computer. It's got Bluetooth. It's got MP3. It's got 3 line inputs that can also be used for mic inputs. Your choice depending on how you set the gain up. Subwoofer out, main out, all XLR. Really, really smart. Even has a low frequency bypass option here, which basically cuts off. If you don't have a crossover in your sub or amp that you're using, you can do that by pressing this button here. All that in that mixer. Again, that's amazing. In the States, you can get it. Unfortunately, not available in Canada. I can't find it. I don't know if I have any left in our showroom, but sorry, in our warehouse, but that's it. There you go. And so we've covered all that. So there you go. There's always other stuff. We're going to cover some little quick ones here. Phantom power puts power on your line inputs. There's always been a hindrance. There's basically a bunch of different microphones. Dynamic. There's condenser. There's a hybrids like the hyperdynamics and stuff like that. There's the other mics like this that I was using today, which is really one of my new favorite mics, is the Sterling P30, which is dynamic with a built-in mini amplifier. This saves you from having to buy a cloud lift. This takes place of that. Excuse me. That's what's going on here. That's what a cloud lift does. It adds power. This is adding power right to here, giving you more output. That's what phantom power is for. Condenser mics I would use for studio use, for live use, that sort of thing. Studio use, podcasts, recordings. Anytime I'm not playing live, use a condenser mic. That's always going to work out better for you. But live, always keep it dynamic, always. And that's where your phantom power comes into play. If you have a ribbon microphone from 1970, never use phantom power on it. If you have a ribbon microphone that you just bought, read the instruction manual like I did for mine. My Marantz MPM 3500R needed phantom power because it has built-in features, and it's their way of making sure you don't damage the actual ribbon mic. That's what's going on there. Outside of that, anything else crazy to talk about? No, that's pretty much it. There's other stuff that we can talk about, but we're going to leave it at that for today because I think this video has gone on long enough for everybody. But I want to say thanks a lot for watching. We're going to see you on the next video. Talk to you next time. Remember, this will be there. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's always so helpful. So I've got a couple of more questions here just before I leave it. I thought one line left or right to one sub, then 2 speakers left and right for sub. Sorry, I'm just trying, right and left to 1 sub. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just reading out the questions here so I get a little bit of gist of where we're at. So Caesar was talking about, and I missed it at the time. I know I'm by myself, so I'm not catching these. Right and left to one sub. Yes, if you have one sub. So let's go back just to the subwoofer one last time. So if I have one sub and two tops, I'm going to run both left and right to the sub, because sometimes if you're playing music from a USB stick or from wherever your source of music is, the left can be different from the right, and that also includes the bass, the subwoofer that you can't hear normally. If you were playing music in your living room through your home system, bass sounds common throughout the whole space, but tends to get recorded on the left or right channel. So in that case, you want to make sure. Now, sometimes it's blended, it's mixed together, it's there, you don't have to worry about it, but you don't know when that's going to happen. So it's always important that if you have one sub, you're going to run both your left and right to that one sub. When you're using a unit like this, that's designed to, it actually has circuitry inside, electronics inside, to merge both left and right channels to run down to the sub. Because subwoofers can be mono, because it's general, that sound is going to be everywhere, and it doesn't matter if it's on the left or out on the right, and if it's slightly out of phase, then it would actually cancel itself out. So it's better to have it running all in mono. All right, so there we go. And yes, you had another question. I thought one line left or right to one sub, then the second speaker left and right from the second sub. Well, yes, if you have two subs, of course you're going to run it like a three-way. Go to your left speaker with your left sub, hook it up that way. Go to your right speaker to your right sub, hook it up that way, because life is better that way. It's just simpler, it's just easier to do, and I absolutely think that's a great way to do it, especially if your speakers are separated by 24 feet in a hall. You're okay. You can run stereo, no problem. Those subs aren't really going to interfere with each other too much. So there you go. I hope I got to everybody's question today. So again, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. We got everything covered. And I know the camera was here the whole time, but I was over there the whole time. So I'm going to just stop here and say thank you very much again for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. It's still important. Still like to, get those added subscriptions onto there. It doesn't do anything to you. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't make me any money. It just one day, it'd be nice to have a vanity plaque over there. When you get to 50,000, they send you that nice little plaque. So it would be nice and awesome to do. But remember, if you do want to support this channel, you can do that through the actual links down below. There's always a super thanks, stuff like that, but I never ask for that. That's, hey, if you're rich and you don't look at money the same way everybody else does, by all means, throw out a super thanks, or whatever they like to call it, that thanks option. But for now, I'm going to say bye. I'm going to see you next time. I'm going to tear this all apart now this afternoon after I finish it, and I'm going to start reposting it as separate entities, and then we're going to do this again for speakers. Okay, we're going to hit the end button now. I got to find it. Where's the end button? I don't know. It's here somewhere. It must be on this system. And stop streaming.